Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your hosts, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon and welcome to episode number 159 of the 31st Lap. Mike Mallett not able to join us tonight, still wrapped up at a baseball game that time of year. We've been able to get pretty lucky really through the first half of the season between the weather cancellations and his baseball schedule. He's been able to Skype in for most of them, but it was a bit of a nail-biter, if you will, that Mike was involved with. So he's tied up now, still on the field. We wish him good luck. Great weekend lined up this week for racing action. Canandaigua is going to be busy, and Black Rock has got the Patriot Sprint Tour coming into town. It's looking like we're going to be making a trip over there to hang out, see the Patriot Sprint Tour, and maybe see if Steve Payne can't pick up another win. We're going to jump right into it. We've got fortunate enough to have Brian Pokorny with Save the Moody Mile joining us here tonight on the Dirt Track Digest hotline. Man, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, man, no problem at all. You guys have been busy, and with the looks of things, a number of those letters and testimonies and emails and everything, at least it seems like Save the Moody Mile is working and the voice is being heard.
Yeah, and that's why I started things the way I did. I just wanted our voice to be heard. Quite often, race fans they stay quiet and they don't go out and protest and do things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a centralized area with the website, SaveTheMoodyMile.com, and our Facebook page, Save Super Dirt Week at New York State Fairgrounds, where people could stay informed. I kept pushing out information on who they should be contacting and when, and the response was great. The racing community came together, and we all love Super Dirt Week, if you like the racing or not. It's a tradition that we'd like to keep going.
We're about right around 2 weeks removed from the big meeting where everybody was there together, and the horse folks were side by side with the race car guys, as Shane Andrews put it. You're gonna have all the horsepower with all the manure, I guess, is one of the ways that he described it. Everybody was there in one place. How has the momentum carried since then? I mean, have you been able to sustain the good of that meeting throughout?
Yeah, the momentum's still there. I think the meeting, the format was a little unfortunate. It was kind of strange. I was asked to speak. I think there were 6 of us that spoke. There were 2 of us, Brian Carter from World Racing Group, myself on the dirt racing side of things, and then there were a couple people from the equestrian side of things, and then someone from the local chamber, and then an RV type person. And we got up and we had a few minutes to speak about our passions, and then they opened it up to the floor, and at that point, the people from the fair and the decision makers, they kind of sat in the back of the room, and we had the public speaking to us. And I had people yelling at me because they wanted to renovate the bathrooms with this kind of money. They wanted to put solar panels up, and it was an awkward situation.
Right.
And it was awkward that and even the mainstream media has kind of spun it where it's the horses versus the horsepower. And, we went into that meeting, we didn't ask for anything. We're just asking to keep the tradition alive. We're not asking to spend millions of dollars on the tracks and put in skyboxes in the grandstands for the fans, where the horse people, they want more.
Right. I mean, that's got to make...
Go ahead.
That's got to make you feel like you've got at least something in your court, because you're saying we're not telling you what to do with the money. We're just saying don't necessarily make major modifications to what we've currently got.
Absolutely, and I think that we're trying to keep dirt racing local. To me, Syracuse is the hub of dirt modified racing in the world, and we want to keep that event in New York State. As we know, there's no venue in New York State that can handle an event of that magnitude.
Right.
Where the horse people, they want to have more horse events. That's great, but they want to steal them from other New York State communities.
Right.
And that's so to me. it's very important that we keep this event and keep the money local in New York State.
And that meeting offered a couple interesting perspectives that, why have we got to destroy one for the other to survive or shut the other one out in order to keep what we've got in terms of the tradition of the mile. That conversation has sprung into a couple different directions with viable positive outcomes in a couple different facets for both racers and horse people alike.
Oh, I agree. Well, first of all, I'd like to state that there was no one there asking for a hockey arena. So that I think that tells you where the hockey people stand. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a planner, but there's plenty of paved areas in my mind on the fairgrounds where other facilities can be built, and we can coexist. I know a lot of horse people; they're great people, and but we're not asking them to tear their building down so we can build a racetrack. Let's work together. There's a lot of smart people that the state's hired to put this together. Let's just do it. We can coexist, and let's have the tradition continue.
And in terms of letters of support, if you jump on SaveTheMoodyMile.com, there's a number of different letters from politicians that have basically said, thank you, Brian, and everybody that's on there for your support, and we hear you. And on your behalf, a number of those politicians have written letters to folks higher up in the food chain, and that's got to be a boon to progress as well.
Oh, I agree. The people in the Senate and the Assembly have been nothing but supportive, and they might not agree or might not know about dirt racing, but they're listening, and they're getting us to the right people. Senator DeFrancisco was great. When I first contacted him, he said this was Joni Mahoney's. This was her idea. She hadn't run it by anyone in Albany.
Interesting.
That was very encouraging.
Right.
And I just hope that continues. I know the plans, I believe, are going to be done by the end of June, preliminary plans. They have to go back to the governor's office. I'm just hoping that politics don't get in the way. We know how that works, and that they'll make a logical decision and listen to the constituents and what they want. And I feel that we had a great representation at the meeting the other night. We've been hearing them with emails and letters and petitions, and I just hope they listen. And I just hope they don't do what they did with the state budget, where they folded a couple different bills into the budget, one being the ethics bill and one being the education bill into one. So there are a lot of petitions that were in favor of the ethics bill. They were in favor of Common Core, things like that, but they had to vote yes because they didn't want to be known as a guy that voted against the ethics. So I hope they can keep this separate from other topics and just concentrate on what the constituents want and vote with what the people actually want out there.
Have you come across anybody that was a closet racing fan, or come across anybody that said, "Yeah, we've been there for not even necessarily Super Dirt Week, but any of the races at Syracuse in the past or in the greater Syracuse area"? I mean, there's plenty of tracks to choose from.
Yeah, it was actually interesting when we were reaching out to state senators. I found out, and her name escapes me right now, but there's a state senator from Saratoga, and her father was Pete Corey.
Oh, really?
So that was a big surprise to me. But I think that to answer your question, I didn't see any of that. I think you're a race fan or you're not. People see race cars going to the track. It's too bad it's not like the old days when they were open trailers, because I thought that was more exciting than just these box trailers going up the road. But I think we're a hidden economic force that people don't realize. John White, he spoke at the meeting the other night about Brewerton and Fulton and how much money they generate for the community. And I just don't think the politicians see that. And I just know, I hate to use the word, but dirt racing is known as a redneck sport to people that don't know it. And it's discouraging to me. I go to work, and 80% of the female workers that I work with are NASCAR fans. Right. They've never been to a dirt race. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That NASCAR, I love NASCAR, but it's to me it's boring. Go to a little bull ring racetrack, go to your local track, and see real racing. And that's one thing I've been trying to promote locally, is just getting some of these people that are NASCAR fans to go see what in my mind is real racing.
You run flag to flag, so I mean you get a lot of racing information coming into you, but at the same time, I don't know if it's with all that information coming to you, I don't know if it's possible to take a stand. Do you have a favorite track? I mean, is Syracuse your favorite track to go to as a racing fan? Is it hard to get back to? Is it hard to get back to a point where you can go to a track as a racing fan at this point?
Well, I tell you, I grew up at Fonda Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
My parents started taking me there when I was 5 years old. I like the short tracks. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse, to be honest with you, and
Careful.
Not my favorite track. It's not. It's history, and Fonda Speedway. They put on some of the most boring races in the world. They put on some of the greatest. Don't get me wrong, but I've been there, and it's like watching paint dry. Mm. And Chris said that, by the way, everybody. But it's good racing. There's good nights and there's bad nights. I love going to Utica Rome Speedway, Weedsport, when Rolling Wheels was around. I like going down south and to some of the smaller tracks like Penn Can or 5 Mile Point. So I love them all. And I'm just, deep down, I'm just a race fan. And I don't care where we're racing. And and that was one hard thing for me the other night, is that my history at the Moody Mile isn't as great as, a Mike Mallett or someone like that that's been there, going there for 20 plus years. I went there when I was a kid, and then just recently I was reunited with the track and started going. But it's just history. And I just remember that day my father said to us that he was taking us to the Labor Day race to go see the big boys race that I had only seen in the Gator racing years before.
Right.
But, so it's, and I've been to great races at the Moody Mile. I've been to some that weren't the greatest, but it's not the point. You go to Daytona, you're going to see a good race, you're going to see a bad race. Indianapolis, the same thing.
Right. I mean, on the topic of NASCAR, I've come across that a lot, where a number of the teachers that I work with are asphalt fans, and they follow NASCAR, and some of them follow it vehemently, but they've never been to one of the local tracks. And here we are in Phelps, which is just around the corner from one of the most regarded dirt tracks in the Empire State, Canandaigua Speedway, and they've never been there. They've never been there to see it. We're going to be talking with Eric Giguere here, the winner of the Sportsman division feature from Saturday, in just a few minutes. Talk with him a little bit about his ventures over there. He's a former track champion. And you're right, talking about going to see a good race, bad race. You never know when the next memorable race is going to be, and you certainly have to be in the grandstands in order to see it. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck reading about it on the internet. So with that in mind, you look at some of the races that we've seen the last several years at Syracuse. Minor upgrades that they've done to the place in terms of just getting the track more racy have opened it up, and it has produced some very, very good racing the last several years. And there's some great storylines that have come out of it with Frank Cozy winning there, and you've got Vic Coffey picking up a second, and Danny Johnson with the battle that he had driving around cars on the outside when he ran away to a win back in the mid 2000s. Here, now it's coming up on 6-10 years ago, but at the same time, those stories they continue to endure, and they're somewhat indelible marks in racing history. And there's a lot of drivers that have yet to write their Syracuse chapter of their careers. They haven't had the chance to get into victory lane, or they've been close to it, and the chapter that they have written for themselves has ended poorly. It's memorable for the wrong reasons, and they want that chance at redemption, and that's what keeps everybody coming back. Is you only get to race there once a year. There's only one modified winner a year now, since those other races have gone by the wayside, and it's one of those things that it's awesome to see somebody that has given everybody a common cart to pull, the way that Syracuse is for everybody. It's so near and dear to so many hearts that if we had branched out about this independently, I think there would have been a lot of running in circles preaching to the choir. But the Save the Moody Mile concept and the Change.org campaign, it really grabbed hold, and all these horses now are hitched to the same wagon, and it sounds like there's progress on the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when speaking to people, one of the things I love about my website, and not to promote it, but flagtoflag.com, is I love hearing from visitors that they come up to me at a trade show and they say, "Hey, I bought my first race car," the website, and and it just gives them an opportunity to get into the sport.
Right.
And at the last trade show when we had the petition going, I was talking out to these young drivers. I'm talking to 16 to 18-year-old drivers that are running Sportsman right now that aren't ready to run the Moody Mile. They need a year or two to get the experience and the funding to get there. And they're worried that they're not going to have that opportunity. And I think, like Mike said, I think it was last week or the week before, if this is the last one, you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of cars there. And guys are going to be showing up with their Saturday night car just to run a lap so they can say they ran the Moody Mile. And I just want to see I just want to see that continue. I want to see these young people that's the pinnacle of their career, is to be able to, even you don't have to win the race. It's just you get there and you're able to run on the Moody Mile.
When you're talking with those guys, what is some of their other sentiments in terms of Syracuse? Are they telling you that they're second generation racers and they're dying for the chance to get there because their dad had raced there, or is it just the raw speed that they're intrigued by? Is it just the chance to partake in the history and say I turned laps on the same track as any number of dirt modified legends and in NASCAR legends, even for that matter, that have gone on and raced there?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. I'm good friends with Taylor Lamb. Taylor, his father is Ted Lamb. Ted has raced at Syracuse, and Taylor, he's been there 2 years in a row now in the Sportsman, and he finally got a grip on the track. He's going to be a great shoe at that track if it continues. And he's scheduling his life around this October,
right,
to make sure that he can be there. And I've heard that from many drivers, second, third generation drivers that have raced at that track. And the same with the fans. The fans mm-hmm. that like myself, that went with my father, and now I take my son. I have a brother who has a 6-year-old son. I hope he has that same opportunity, just to sit in those stands and just see the spectacle of Super Dirt Week. It's very special, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm not hearing as much from the drivers. I think most drivers have a love-hate relationship with the Moody Mile.
That's for sure.
As far as the fans, I mean, it's just all great people. I sit up in the grandstands with all the Canadians, and just have a great time. We see the same people every year, and once a year. And to me, like I said the other night at the hearing, that we're just one big racing family. This is a family tradition. And we make Syracuse and the fairgrounds our home every October, and I just hope they don't take that away from us.
What about the potentials of the coexisting topic? Came up a number of times in different instances through the course of that meeting. You mentioned the different areas that were already paved, that they could do the renovations to that area instead. You mentioned some of those guys not being ready to go tackle the full mile track. What about the potential of reconfiguring the existing track into a smaller format, especially given that we've lost the other big track of our area at this point? It looks like Rolling Wheels is in some pretty dire straits over there.
Right. Yeah, I think the potential is there. I think if and this is where I struggle a little bit, because like I mentioned earlier, that I like the small tracks. But if there was a compromise, first of all, I don't know what kind of building they're going to build for $50 million. You're not going to get much out of that. So I don't know where the rest of the funding is going to come for all these facilities they want to build. But if that track was shortened to a 5/8 mile track, and you could still keep the same aspect of the Super Dirt Week race intact, to me, I'd still love to see the hot pit stops. I'm not a big fan of the tracks or the races that they cut it halfway and they give them 15 minutes to do whatever they want. I think that's part of the race. Gas mileage is part of the race. I think it would open up a lot of doors. It would allow that guy that has the Saturday night car and doesn't have large backing to come to the race and compete with the big boys. I think it would be it's more in line with what our sport is all about. We race on traditionally, close to half-mile tracks, season long. Why not make that be the pinnacle event of the season, staying in tune with what we do. And to me, it's like NASCAR running ovals all year round, and then the last race of the year they run a road course.
Right.
To me, it doesn't make much sense.
Sure.
So, to me, in my heart, as long as there's racing at the fairgrounds, I think if they could, if they made the track a little smaller, I don't think it would be a loss for us. I think it potentially could be a long-term win for the dirt racing community.
Well, they could multi-purpose it a lot more easily in terms of bringing other series in and running it on a more regular basis. You wouldn't necessarily have to have, as you alluded to, some of those regular Saturday night guys could bring the car that they run on a regular basis. They wouldn't have to have a special designed a specific chassis or a specific engine that's dedicated just for the riggers of Syracuse. Which
I agree, and I think there's World Racing Group. They hold the keys to that place right now, but I know there's plenty of promoters out there that would like to get into that facility, and it might not be a weekly thing, but it could be a monthly thing. Definitely have more events there annually to show the decision makers that we can make money and it is a viable economic force in the area.
Yep, that's a fact, and those numbers continue to roll in. There's plenty of support. SaveTheMoodyMile.com is your go-to source for everything. You've got emails, you've got a whole email list, you've got a message board that's available there. And there's a number of reference documents as well. At this point, how many followers? There's the Facebook page as well. How many followers are you up to on that?
I think it's 67, just over 6,700. We've had over half a million Facebook views and shares, which to me was totally amazing. What I'd like to mention is we gave out T-shirts for the first 150 people that showed up at the hearing tonight, and if someone just go to the Facebook page tonight and just message me, and the first person to do so, I'll send them off a T-shirt.
Oh, that's awesome, man. We appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yep.
In terms of Facebook and the messages and stuff, I imagine you probably don't have the opportunity to go through every single one of them yourself, but in terms of some of the geography of it, what's the farthest one away that you've come across, or any of them that stand out in your mind?
We had some people from Australia.
Wow.
We can tell you what family that came from. It's been mostly more northeast. It's been Pennsylvania, it's been New York, New Jersey, Quebec, and Ottawa.
I almost think that's better. You know, if somebody from California is weighing in and saying, "Yeah, Syracuse is a great place," it's nice to hear that you have nationwide support, and it adds weight to that national jewel argument. But at the same time, it's not quite the same as having all of the support coming from in your backyard, because, as you said, those are the guys in California and the Carolinas, stuff like that. Those aren't necessarily constituents the way that the people here at home are.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nice to see. We got a lot of traction out in Indiana, and a lot of people out there, USAC fans, that just want to save the tradition. They just don't want to see another mile track go away. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from them. They started ripping off drivers that have raced at the Moody Mile, and the history with USAC at the track is phenomenal.
That's awesome. I know John's excited to hear that. John Baumus is such a USAC fan across the board, so I'm sure he can rattle off some more of those names too, or at least double up on the names that you've already got. Is there anybody else that you wanted to make mention of? I mean, I can't believe that this is an endeavor that you're doing just on your own.
Well, it is. I've had a lot of support from my wife. She's sick by now, I'm sure, but I've had a lot of people that want to remain behind the scenes. Very influential people in the racing community that are supporting these efforts, and it's not just me; it's everybody. It's every fan, every driver, everybody in the family that's written letters and showed up at the meeting the other night. This is a group effort. I'm not going to take any credit for it. The only credit I'm going to take is just that I made a centralized area so we could have a unified voice. A passionate voice that was heard by the decision makers, and I just hope and pray that they're listening and they make the right decision.
Seems like it's working. I mean, I wish you the best as we move forward. Certainly keep in touch. Anybody that was listening right now, make sure you get on to the Facebook page. Send them a like, send them a message. Brian Pokorny with Flag to Flag, tackling, championing, being the champion of the effort here. SaveTheMoodyMile.com as we move forward towards a very tumultuous fall for racing out here. It very well could be the last, but right now there's at least some very, very, very light writing on the wall that maybe the voices are being heard and this is going to work out for the best.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity, Chris, and I encourage everybody that's listening to go to the websites like you just said, and it's not too late to send a letter or an email to these folks just to say that you care and you want tradition to remain at the Moody Mile.
Perfect, Brian. Man, I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and by all means, keep us informed.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. There goes Brian Pokorny of SaveTheMoodyMile.com, and the biggest thing is you can't, in this situation, sit idle. You can't just sit there and do nothing. If you do nothing, then you have nothing to come back on down the line. Even if this is a futile effort and we don't get anywhere, at least you can say that you tried it. On the topic of some of the series that have been at the mile, World of Outlaws Sprint Car is scheduled to appear this weekend at Weedsport Speedway. Pit gates are going to open at 3. General admission gates open at 5, racing at 7. Admission to the pits, non-members $40. Members have a $5 break on that. Adult general admission $35, $4 surcharge added for reserve seating. Children under 10 are free. Weedsportspeedway.com for more details. Another quick lap around what happened over the weekend. Steve Payne, as we alluded to, pulled down the win at Black Rock. He's going to be back in action with the with the modifieds, along with the Sportsman, all the other weekly classes still on the schedule at Black Rock coming up on Friday night. We've also got the Patriot Sprint Tour in town at Black Rock this weekend as well. General admission $15, modified Sportsman, IMCA, street stocks, adult and youth 4-cylinder divisions on the card as well. Gates at 5, racing at 7, BlackRockSpeedway.com for more details. Matt Shepard coming away, flexing some muscle, started 18th at Brewerton, came away with a 35-lap win out there with 10 to go. Matt Hulsizer was leading by 15 car lengths. 6 laps later, Shepard was right on top of him, turned the margin to a car length with 2 to go. Hulsizer slipped high, let Matt Shepard get by and pull down the win. Matt Billings was second. Hulsizer, Jimmy Phelps, Rob Bellinger round out the top 5 there. Ransomville, Phil Vigneri earned the victory. He led flag to flag, held off Boyd McTavish and Janny Johnson. Brett Hearn came away with a win Friday at Albany-Saratoga Speedway. Second straight there, 118th overall at Albany-Saratoga. Oswego's opener, Otto Sitterly, picked up a victory there. It was his 5th career opening night win. He started 8th and got the lead from Joe Gozik, who was his teammate, no less. Let's fix that for everybody just quickly before we go back into this. And got the lead on a lap 28 restart. It was 31st career win overall. He's 9th in the career win list, and Sitterly is now 2 victories behind Doug Dodaro and Doug Havron with 33 wins each. Bob Bond was second with Gosek finishing third. Dylan Doyle won the small block supers, and Mike Lady picked up a win in the Richie Evans Memorial for the ROC Asphalt guys. Matt Shepard won the 35-lap feature at all right. Matt Shepard took the 35-lap win at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. Eric Giguere, we're going to be getting with him here momentarily in the Sportsman feature. Adam DePay won the street stock feature. Darryl Ruggles won the 20-lap 305 sprint. That was his second straight. Eric Chapman doubled up as well, winning his second straight. Pure stock man Sean Amon won the adult demolition derby over there. And there was 12 cars in the pits for that. Chad Phelps shook off a tough start to the season to come away with a win at Fulton. Stu Friesen won his 32nd career at the Track of Champions. And I believe Rocky Warner came away with a Sportsman win over there at the Fonda Speedway. Give me just a quick minute here, and we will get Eric Giguere on the phone. And as we move towards the conclusion of the 31st lap, episode number 159. Hey, Eric, it's Chris. Can I put you in? Yeah, sure. All right. As we talked about a little bit earlier, Mike wrapped up with a baseball game tonight, not able to join us, and John's still working on putting his new house back together, so we anticipate his return here fairly soon. Pretty cool. I'm excited to welcome Eric Giguere to the show, man. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Congratulations on the win at Canandaigua with the Sportsman division this year, picking up right where it left off last year. It's a tight division over there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. That win's got to be meaningful for you.
Yeah, it was a good win to get out of the way. It's always good when you get one early in the season. Then there's no pressure to, the rest of the year. As the season starts to tick down, you don't have one. You sort of start to get worried. But it was kind of a surprise to me. To be honest with you, the week before, we didn't have the car running well. We've been having some issues. It's a new car. So, when you have a new car, you go out, you don't really know how it's going to handle. But the car was good. We nailed the setup. It was a rocket. We started up towards the front, which helps a little bit. But we kept it up there, so that's all that matters. So it's a good one to get out of the way.
We talked a lot here in the last half hour or so with Brian Pokorny about Save the Moody Mile and some of the charity, if you will, that you've got coming from the racing community to support that. Everybody putting forth the efforts and dedicating some time to try and save that racetrack. You were in a similar boat this weekend, taking the winnings and kicking it back to the Giguere race team.
Yeah, it was just something we wanted to do. We raced those guys for a lot of years. And, we go at it on the track, but we all get along pretty good off the track. And, somebody who's got a race car, it's like, first race out of the year, you lose one. We had to happen to us last year, and it was just a bad way to start out the year. So during the week, I thought about it. I'll just, whatever we win, we'll donate to them. And I'll be honest, we haven't been running that good. It's a new car, and so I thought, maybe it'd be $50 or whatever, because we just haven't been going that good. And lo and behold, we won the race. We were able to give them $500, and hopefully help those guys out. So it was just something that we wanted to do.
So just to recap, the Giguere team lost a brand new race car. Not this past weekend, but the week prior. And Monday morning, a new Troyer car, chassis and skins, was dropped off. They ended up getting the skins over to Pilot on, I think it was Wednesday. They thrashed all week long. They got the car together. The car was there in action on Saturday. Not as fast as your new piece. Anything?
Well, he had some more issues. He had a water pump break on the front of the car, and so he's just really had a tough start of the year. So, I'm sure he'll get it straight. Those guys, they know what they're doing. They've been in this a long time, and they'll get it straightened out. I expect to see Paul in victory lane the next couple weeks, no doubt about it.
He is still, if I remember correctly, he's still the career wins leader in the sports division at Canandaigua.
I believe so, yeah. He's been doing it for a long time. He's had a lot of wins, and he's getting up there. So we were stuck on that 13, couldn't get the win over 13 for the longest time, and then we got that one out of the way, and we've got some more after that. So glad to be over that hump. 13 was unlucky for us, but hopefully we'll get a couple more this year and try to catch up to Paul a little bit.
How about those championship hopes? Too early to be talking about that?
Yeah, it's pretty early. The first night already hurt us. Luckily we didn't even qualify for the race, and luckily Jeremy, he was nice to put everybody in the race, so we at least got points to start. But, that puts you in a hole right then and there. When you got guys, you look at the top of that thing, you got Dave Marticelli and James Henry and all those guys up there. They don't make a lot of mistakes too often, and so you got to run really good. You can't really afford to give up so many points in that division. And, Kevin Ridley and Paul and all those guys will make a run for it too, no doubt about it.
I think it was last year that you came off turn 4 and you pancaked the wall pretty bad and ended up taking a concussion and sidelined you for a little bit. How tough was it to bounce back from the head injury in terms of racing? I mean, obviously, your body wanted to go, but the doctors were probably saying, pull the reins a little bit on that.
Yeah, the doctors actually kind of wanted me to take the whole year off, and I kind of had a whippy doctor, I think. So, we took I promised my family I'd take 3 weeks off. I went race, and, we felt good, and we went back to the doctor, said we were fine. So, he wanted me to take the rest of the year off, and I promised the family 3 races. So I think I did take the 3 races off, and then we raced Steve Payne's Troyer for 2 races, so our other car was put back together, and then we went out with the other car and raced that one. So it's hard to take time off from there. It's hard when you're in the middle of it. And for years now I've been saying, this is my last year racing, but it's one of those things where it's in your blood. It's like you do every Saturday night, and I don't really know what I'd do if I didn't have the races. So.
You run your business, Safety Awareness Solutions. How's everything going with that? That seemed to have really taken off the last couple of years.
It's good. We're busy. The business is good, and I love what I do. I enjoy it, and we're growing a little bit. And the problem is it takes me away from home quite a bit. I was I took 228 flights last year. I've had 90-something flights already this year. So it's
wow.
It's hard to manage the business and family and try to stick a race car in there as well. So thank God I got two guys that help me out all the time. Bruce Ridley and Brian Pokorny, those guys, they're working in the garage all the time where I'm out of town. And if it wasn't for them, there would be no race car, there'd be no racing, there'd be no nothing. They just they kill themselves on the car. And like I said in Ricky Lane Saturday night, that win was just as much theirs as it was mine, because I had the easy part. I got to drive the car. They got the hard part. They take it apart all week. They go through it. They make sure it's ready to go. So, without them, we couldn't win any races. We couldn't even run any races. So.
How much, compared to the modified, I mean, now that you got a little bit of an opportunity to compare some notes, you're fairly close with the Gigueres, and Paul jumped up to the modifieds there for a little while. How much maintenance is required on the Sportsman program, the way that it is right now at Canandaigua, compared to where you were previously running Sportsman without a lot of the more stringent rules in place, and also likewise compared to what the modified guys had to go through?
Well, I'll be honest with you, we do the same thing to our cars as the modified guys do. They got an oil cooler and a couple other things, but as far as maintenance goes, you're pulling the hubs, you're checking the bearings, you're every nut and bolt. If you want to run up front, you want to have the car right. You got to go through every nut and bolt, make sure nothing's bent. If it's bent, you can find the front end, and it's just you got to go through everything. You got to check it over good. So compared, I've never maintained a modified. Danny Weezer, he's run a modified this year, but same thing. The same kind of maintenance. You have to go through everything. Our tires, we don't wear our tires out quite as often as they do, and they obviously their motors have more power, so it's more strenuous in the drivetrain. The drive shaft and stuff's more likely to break, but you still got to check all that stuff on our cars too. So we have about the same maintenance program. That was one of the big things at Syracuse. I love to run Syracuse, and I hope they save that place and we can run there for the next 10 years. But when we go to Syracuse, the Sportsman guys, we're kind of, if you get some time, we get to go up there. But we do just as much work to our cars as the modified guys do. We get new bodies, we put, so it's we do just as much as they do.
Now, I got a question going back to what you said a few minutes ago. You keep saying that this is your last year, and now you just said that you want to have the opportunity to run at Syracuse for the next 10. So which one is more closer to the truth? You going to be running for the next 10 years?
Every year is the last year, but you never know. So, it's someday I'll have to stop. I'm getting older, so someday I'll have to stop. But we'll see. As long as we can do it and people are willing to help out and we're having fun, we'll keep doing it. But if we can't do it, and if the family gets too busy or whatever, then we'll figure something else, or maybe we won't do it as much. Maybe we'll keep the race car and we won't race every Saturday night. We won't run a series. We'll just show up somewhere and run, or we'll show up at Syracuse and run. We'll see. You never know. But I hope they get to Save the Mile. Everybody keeps talking about Super Dirt Week, maybe moving it to somewhere else, and there's just really no other place Super Dirt Week can be than Syracuse. So I hope that the state comes through and allows us to keep that place.
Awesome. Anybody you talked about, people coming along to help. Anybody you want to mention in terms of the size of the cars?
I'm sorry, Chris. What was
Anybody
that?
who's on the sides of the cars? I saw Heritage is on board this year.
Yeah, we have Heritage Archery on there. We put them on there. Those guys are awesome. They're in Phelps, New York. If anybody's ever wanting to get into archery, with your children or whatever, or need something, Mike Price runs that. His family's excellent. My girls go there, and my crew guy, Brian, his daughter shoots there. And they're just really good with the kids. They take a lot of time. They help you out. So we put them on the recorder just to give them some exposure, and just as a thank you for everything that they do. And, we have Wayne Spa Service on there. My father-in-law, he helps all the time, adjust valves and everything else like that. So we have him on the car, and Safety Winter Solutions, my business. So and basically just thank, to my crew and everybody that helps out. So we definitely couldn't, racing, there's not one person that races alone, I can tell you that. And it's definitely a group event. So all weekend long, it's a whole bunch of people work together to make these things go. That's for sure.
Awesome, Eric. Again, congratulations on the win, and noble gesture giving the winnings over to the Giguere clan. That was a very kind move, man.
Thanks, no problem. I appreciate it.
You bet. That's gonna do it for us, Eric. I appreciate you joining us on the show. Keep us posted as things go, and I hope to catch up with you here a little bit later on this summer.
All right, Chris, have a good one.
Thanks, man. There goes Eric Giguere, the winner of the Sportsman division over at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. here over the weekend. They're in action this Saturday, and looks like the forecast is shaping up to be pretty decent. So make sure you get out there, support. SaveTheMoodyMile.com. Let Brian Pokorny know that you love him. Let Syracuse know that you guys want to keep racing there. I think we're just about wrapped up for this weekend. I think we're going to be back here again next Thursday. Hopefully Mike's schedule frees up. We'll be able to have him on. Thanks a lot to Brian Pokorny for joining us here this week as well. It's going to do it for us. We appreciate everybody coming on with us, and we'll see you again next week.